Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our fifth webinar of the Digital Fashion Innovation Network webinar series. As you know, Digital Fashion Network is an AHRC, Arts and Humanities and Research Council funded network project. And through this project, we have been organizing series of events, online and offline, webinars, workshop, and we'll be organizing a conference also, and we'll continue with this until the end of the project. I'm very happy to share with you that we have got a very renowned speaker today, Leslie Holden, who is known as a digital fashion guru. And thank you, Leslie, to accepting our invitation and joining us today. As you know, always, we will be recording the session. It's being recorded, as you can see on the screen. And once the event is finished, we will upload this recording on our YouTube channel and publish it on our website so that you can watch it again and again, or those who haven't joined us today may watch it when they visit our website. We always like interactive, audience. Feel free to use the chat option and the Q&A option of the webinar screen. It will be a great idea, I think, if you just let us know, writing on the chat box, that where are you from today, what's your name, and which organization you are affiliated with. And without further ado, I would move to our speaker, but I'll take just a few seconds to introduce him briefly. Our speaker is Leslie Holden, who is the co-founder of Digital Fashion Group. And as the head of the department at Amsterdam Fashion Institute, AMFI, and a member of AMFI board for over 14 years, Leslie was responsible for the redevelopment of the international curricula, focusing on digitalization and sustainability in fashion. And as a design director and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in the fashion industry, he worked for such companies as Dunhill, Stefanel, Biblos, Burberry, and Liberty. Leslie is a mentor for the FATEC Incubator Program, sits on the steering committee of the EU Worth Partnership Project, and in an EU expert for the creative industry. He is also currently the co-chair of our institute, Manchester Fashion Institute's External Advisory Group, and member of the advisory boards of Digital Fashion Week and the Metaverse Fashion Council. To carry on with his introduction, he was for many years an executive board member of the International Foundation for Fashion Technologies in the Institutes, shortly known as IFTI, and the trustee of the UK Graduate Fashion Foundation. He is an experienced keynote speaker and a moderator, and Leslie is a graduate of the Royal College of Art. Thank you, Leslie, for being with us, and over to you.
Thank you, Abu. It's always nice to hear someone read that out. I'm so impressed by myself when I hear that read by someone else. Thank you. And thank you very much for asking me to talk today. And I've got a particular subject that I want to talk to you about, which is at the heart of our purpose in the Digital Fashion Group. And although we are a digital company, quite often I have technology problems when I do these things, so bear with me. I'm going to try and share. And it seems to be here. The first thing that's it. How amazing. Look at that.
You can see the screen, yeah. Perfect.
You can see. Wonderful. Now let's just hope the videos work. That's the next level of problems. Okay, so I'm just going to, hopefully this works. I'm just going to play this video. I'm not going to say anything about it, and then we'll talk after. I'll talk afterwards.
I think it'll be completely different. In fact, it may not even exist at all. Oh, I'm not thinking of the atom bomb and the next Stone Age. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough which has been made possible by developments in communications, particularly the transistor and, above all, the communications satellite. These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other, wherever we may be, where we can contact our friends anywhere on Earth, even if we don't know their actual physical location. It will be possible in that age, perhaps only 50 years from now, for a man to conduct his business from Tahiti or Bali just as well as he could from London. In fact, if it proves worthwhile, almost any executive skill, any administrative skill, even any physical skill, could be made independent of distance. I am perfectly serious when I suggest that one day we may have brain surgeons in Edinburgh operating on patients in New Zealand. When that time comes, the whole world will have shrunk to a point, and the traditional role of the city as a meeting place for man would have ceased to make any sense. In fact, men will no longer commute, they will communicate. They won't have to travel for business anymore, they'll only travel for pleasure. I only hope that when that day comes, and when the city is abolished, the whole world isn't turned into one giant suburb. Looking as far into the technological future as I dare, I'd like to describe the invention to end all inventions. I call it the replicator, and it's simply a duplicating machine. But it's a duplicating machine that can make an exact copy of anything. Can we imagine a world in which objects can be made as easily as today we can make books? Confronted with such a device, our present society would probably sink into a kind of gluttonous barbarism, because everybody would want unlimited quantities of everything, since nothing would cost anything. And yet even greater changes are still to come, because the future is not merely an extension of the present with bigger and better machines and cities and gadgets. It'll be fundamentally different. And many of the things we take for granted will one day pass away as completely as spinning wheels and sedan chairs and oil lamps. And that is why the future is so endlessly fascinating, because try as we can, we'll never outget.
Okay. So, how do I do full screen here?
We can see full screen from our
You can
side.
see full screen. Oh, that's super good. Thank you. Okay, right. So, still full screen? Yes?
Yes, yeah, it's still full screen, yeah. Perfect.
Technology is working. My goodness. Okay, so that was a little film that we put together from two different films, an interview from the 60s and Balenciaga's, I think it was Spring Summer Collection 2022. And I think that this prediction from the 60s is quite eerie when you actually listen to some of the things that he was saying about what the future will entail. So, as Abu said, my name is Leslie Holden, and I'm the co-founder of the Digital Fashion Group. And I want to talk to you today about the push and pull of reimagining fashion. And in this presentation, I'm going to discuss a reassessment of the traditional fashion system to realise a sustainable future, and in what ways an on-demand production system can be part of the solution. So this is a picture of Sean and me. Sean, the other co-founder, he's the older one on the right-hand side. At the beginning of the first lockdown in 2020, I took the brave decision to resign from my job as head of department in Amsterdam Fashion Institute after 15 years and started the Digital Fashion Group with Sean. And we wanted to rise to the challenges of pivoting education towards digitalization. That was our initial goal. And the Digital Fashion Group works with higher education and with industry to inform and strategize about digitalization in the fashion industry. Now, we currently have 5 courses because we started the Digital Fashion Group with producing courses because that was a first kind of clear thing for us to do. We researched for about a year. We spoke to lots of key players in the industry, and then we started to make courses. Digital Fashion 101 is our first course, and it demystifies what's happening in digital fashion. And then we did this in collaboration with Parsons in New York. And then we developed 3D design, which is the fundamentals of learning how to use 3D virtual prototyping. And then we developed a specialism of 3 courses that sit on Coursera. I'm sure you all know what Coursera is. It's like the biggest learning platform on the globe. And then since July 21, when we launched our first course, we've educated over 15,000 people in different ways. So our impact in spreading the knowledge of digital fashion has been quite significant. Now, in 2020, to research into the space, we've considered what the Digital Fashion Group could be and should be. And as I said, we interviewed many nascent technology companies, but also many well-founded and well-established companies. And we spoke to people in very high positions because, it was during COVID, so you could do that on LinkedIn, just reach out to the CEO of Hewlett-Packard and manage to get them. And we were really shocked to find out that the vast majority of people that we interviewed had no knowledge of the fashion industry, had never worked in the fashion industry, but were wanting to develop business and to develop technology for the fashion industry. I guess this was really our first shock, and it was really an indication in many ways of things to come. So Industry 4.0 has been described as a model where new modes of production and consumption will dramatically transform all major industrial systems. It's been targeted by many government plans as a goal for a sustainable future. And the vision of Industry 4.0 is to build a digital supply chain, one that would break down the walls and cause it to be fully transparent to all players involved. Now, this would require companies to not only digitize, but also digitalize. Now, over the last decade, the digital transformation of fashion has been largely focused on digitization. So that, just to be clear, that is like taking the analog and making it digital. For example, scanning a photograph and making it into a PDF. That's digitization. But this focus was with no real urgency to change the business model of fashion. But in the past few years, like 3 or 4 years, however, companies have had digitalization thrust upon them. Now, digitalization is about process, so what you do with the data, forcing these companies to remodel their internal and external processes and embrace entirely new digitally based concepts of selling, such as omnichannel, NFTs, and Metaverse. Now, I'm delighted to tell you that this presentation is not about the Metaverse. Now, at a minimum, fashion's foray into the Metaverse suggested promising new, innovative ways for consumer engagement, such as direct-to-avatar and links with gaming. But as with so many similar new concepts, the Metaverse was more hype than content, more promise than product. And although saying that, we are now seeing new navigations of the Metaverse quietly happening without all the excitement and hype that we saw 2 years ago. Now, while no one can predict exactly how rapidly growing digital universe will shape up, the opportunities it presents are clearly exciting, especially for luxury brands, retailers, and indeed for consumers themselves, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, who are the true digital natives, of course. But in this presentation, I'm also going to resist focusing on AI, which one could say was without doubt this year's hype et plus important. Now, that was really bad French, I'm sorry. Without this year's hype, which is really important. I'd like to focus on the practicalities of how the digitalization of fashion has the potential to ensure a more sustainable industry, and present you with 3 case study examples of ways in which Industry 4.0 can transform the fashion supply chain into digitally connected systems. So when Sean and I first started the Digital Fashion Group, we did it with a core belief that digitalization was a pragmatic approach to ensuring a more sustainable industry. And we believe everything starts with a creative vision. And in the fast fashion business model, the designer is traditionally placed in a bubble at the beginning of the chain. They're expected to just be as creative as possible. They're not expected to understand the reasoning or the complexities of the supply chain. Merchandisers or buyers take their design ideas. These are then passed down through the supply chain, and many people giving different inputs. And in the end, the garment in the store is not the same as the designer initially intended. Now, this traditional business model of fashion is also a negative working capital model. Money is invested into producing stock inventory, which is then pushed into the market and has been developed to necessitate waste. Now, the Digital Fashion Group, our core belief is that in the future, the designer or creative will be center stage in the digital or the data dialogue, close to the consumer in an ongoing conversation and collaboration, and close to the manufacturer in an on-demand structure of manufacturing. The designer as director of a short supply chain, utilizing digital tools such as 3D prototyping to communicate ideas and with sales and manufacturing, and AI to collect necessary data on which to base design decisions which reflect consumers' needs and wants. So the designer really having to understand what data is, that data will empower the designer's position. And on the other hand, move to the next slide. On the other hand, digital product creation and digital selling can ensure that garments only require manufacturing once they are sold. So the money comes up front. This means the traditional push system is transformed into a pull system of just-in-time, on-demand, made-to-order manufacturing, ensuring a sustainable approach and a positive working capital process. Now, the ultimate goal is to create 3D models of such high quality that tech packs can be eliminated altogether, allowing manufacturers to cut and sew products using only the 3D models as input. Now, this could potentially lead to a first-time right approach, eliminating the production of prototypes and samples entirely, creating efficiencies and benefits for all supply chain partners. Now, on-demand manufacturing has the ability to show customers a photoreal digital garment created early on in the process, making it possible to facilitate an on-demand manufacturing model coupled with digital fit solutions. At the Digital Fashion Group, our research methodology is practice-based, and we believe the best knowledge is that of experts. So let's hear about on-demand fashion from some experts who are working with sustainability at the core of their mission. I've selected 3 snippets of video interviews we've done with companies who are working with and approaching on-demand design and manufacturing from different perspectives. So Platform E is a technology company founded in 2015, which includes the founder of Farfetch, Jose Neves, and Net-a-Porter's Natalie Massenet among its investors. And it's headquartered in the heart of Porto. Now, between 2019 and 2020, they launched Digit, a digital agency specializing in 3D digital product, creation, 3D PC and animation, and Skinvaders, a next-generation platform for in-game branded skins and in-game digital assets at scale. Now, in recent years, or more recently, they built a global network of digitally savvy factories ready to produce on demand in record time. In addition, they've partnered with Housespring to build a factory of the future in the north of Portugal. Now, I hope this will work. We interviewed Gonzalo Cruz, the CEO, for our course Digital Fashion 101. And in this snippet, Gonzalo describes how they work with digital and how they are changing the fashion business model from a push system to a pull system.
My name is Gonzalo Cruz. 5-6 years ago, I was just discussing life with a good friend, the founder of Farfetch, and we ended up partnering and creating Platform E. We have started selling fashion without producing it. So whenever we do a 3D of a beautiful dress, jacket, shirt, pair of shoes, whatever it is, we don't need to produce physical samples. With our technology, both the software and also the service of producing 3D, we can actually publish a beautiful product in 3D with incredible visual quality. And actually, we can offer that for people to buy. And we change how the fashion industry operates, because in a way we're changing the business model. Fashion's business model, it's essentially the same, I would say, for many decades, maybe 70, 80 years. It is a negative working capital model, meaning we invest in producing stock, inventory, so we will have a cost there, we will have a negative cash flow. We will produce batches, we will produce inventory, physical products, and then we will push it to the market. And with all of this, we can design a different system, making it a pull system. So I will actually start selling digital fashion, e-fashion, and if and once those products get sold, if I have real demand, real customers, real users, then I will activate just-in-time, on-demand, made-to-order manufacturing production. So it becomes a positive working capital process. So I receive the money up front, and much more than getting the money, it's the principle. First, I get people committed to buying, they will buy something, and only then I will involve the manufacturing part, and only then I will have the cost of producing something.
Did you get that full screen, that whole film?
Yeah, we got it full screen, yeah.
That's super good. Good. I should use Teams more often. It seems to work much better than Zoom. Okay, the next snippet I'd like to share with you is from another expert interview. Beth Esponet is a co-founder and CEO of Unspun, a phygital jeans brand out of San Francisco. And here in this snippet, she discusses their mission and why they have developed technology and their approach to on-demand. At Unspun, there are no sizes. Every pair of jeans is made custom fit to the client's body. And Unspun see themselves as building a new system versus fixing an old one. And they also currently, they're in the final prototype stages of developing developing 3D weaving technology, which has the potential to revolutionize to scale garment production, which it's quite amazing to see. Next time I'll try and have something about that. Okay, so Beth, here we go.
My name is Beth Espinette, and I'm one of the founders of Unspun. And so a few years out of undergrad, I was starting to see in the industry, starting to get frustrated with what we projected on the outside and what was happening on the inside. And this eventually just became me not wanting to go to work anymore. Why do we make the things the way we do? Why do we make things before people want them? It's really it's gotten us into this mess.
Buying clothes has never been easier. 80 billion items are manufactured every year.
We're putting too much product out there, most of that product ending up in landfill.
So-called fast fashion allows consumers to buy more, but they're wearing these garments less often and disposing of them at an unprecedented rate.
Unspun is a company that wants to make the clothing industry intentional, to match what is produced and what is purchased, what is wanted, and to eventually reach circularity. And Unspun sells direct to consumer, and we sell custom fit jeans using mobile phone body scans. So we're working on technology, some software and hardware to make building on demand possible. And we are a fashion tech company in the background, but we have a brand that sells direct to consumer because we feel that's the best way to learn if what you're doing is actually the right thing, if people are open to it, and if it's a viable business. As a consumer, what you would do is go to our website, choose your different options for jeans. Everyone has their own opinion of what they like. So we've boiled it down to 5 different options, different aspects of the jean that you can customize. So there's style, so that's how tight or loose the pant is, the fabric, so you can get stretchy, rigid, etc. Thread color, rise of the waist, and then the hem length. So these are different options. So once you've chosen a style, then you download an app, and the app will take you through the body scan, which takes about 10 seconds. The hardest part is finding enough space in your house to do the scan. It's about 1 meter on each side of you to do the spin. You place your phone on a chair and you back away about 10 feet and then spin around, and you're done. The scanning technology is really neat. It's actually the same exact thing that's in facial recognition on a phone. So it's infrared, it projects 30,000 points on your body, sort of this matrix, this grid of points. So you end up as a very accurate avatar of yourself.
Okay, sorry about the mic. Okay, so the last snippet I'd like to show you is Andrew Wyatt, the CEO and founder of Cala. And Cala is, again, based in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And Andrew Wyatt recognizes that the world is moving towards a 3D design and on-demand production model. And when Cala first launched, the company marked its foray into the market with its on-demand custom-fit 3D body scan system. Now, Cala has now added to this as a core supply chain partner for fashion brands, working on demand with small fashion brands and influencers to create solutions that use technology to streamline the process of creating physical products and selling them to customers.
I'm Andrew Wyatt, I'm founder and CEO of Cala. Cala, our mission is to empower creators everywhere. And we do that by building technology that streamlines the process of building and scaling a fashion brand.
What's missing in fashion?
I think there should be more like direct-to-consumer ways to shop and interact. There's always that middleman, and sometimes that is that's annoying, and it should be more direct.
The initial concept of Cala was upload a sketch, and within a day we'll give you a total landed cost. And then if you push a button and check out, you'll be able to manage that whole process until you have the goods in your hand. But what we realized is that sending 300 Yeezy-esque sweatshirts to an NFL player and to their house doesn't necessarily help them be successful and come back and be a big Cala customer. So we added in fulfillment. And then once we had fulfillment, what we realized, they don't want to be answering a ton of emails, customer support questions, what's the bust and sort of length measurements. So we added in customer support. And so we've done that continuously to where now we have ghost design resources. So if someone has the big picture, they don't actually have the technical design or even the sort of fabrication understanding, we can provide those resources. Same thing, we even have financing, paid marketing support, and even resources around building a website. Now we're pretty evenly focused on both people and brands with an engaged audience. One of our biggest customers only has 9,000 followers on social media and was much smaller when we first started working with them, but they have a niche base that are fanatical. That's as valuable as someone that has millions of followers. And actually, going back to my operations training, waste is in essence not sustainable. So whether that's time waste or excess inventory waste, that is all inherently a poor use of resources. And you can choose to look at that from a dollar perspective, but you can also choose to look at it from the environmental impact of those resources.
You just have to look at landfill, and you can see in landfill that the amount of clothes and textiles being chucked away has been increasing steadily over the last 10 years as the sort of dirty shadow of the fast fashion industry.
From Cala's perspective, our fundamental day one impact on the industry is the ability for people to only produce what they think they can actually sell. We have this sort of network approach where we have over 40 manufacturers in 8 different countries. And so when you check out for a design, we price it automatically and upfront based on our proprietary pricing algorithm. But then we'll bid it out to the best fixed factory based on the product type, on the time of year, the materiality, and the complexity. And of course, most importantly, the number of units. And you can actually check out for 10 units of something or 25. Of course, economies of scale is still in play, so it's going to be more expensive than if you do 300. What we witnessed when we first started a few years ago is that so many young designers were taking their full budget and spending it on product because they had to hit a 300-piece minimum. And so that's our first step is to basically enable people to, even if the margins are going to be compressed initially, start with, don't get out over your skis on inventory too soon. And then we also, as a sort of a separate piece, we have factories in our network that have the top certifications. We have factories that are female owned. We have factories that use 100% sustainable energy and vegetabilize. And so we made that an option. And so if you want to produce sustainably, it's an option that you can do from the beginning on Cala. Today, it's about 25% more expensive than producing in a, I don't want to say non-sustainable, because all of our factories have pretty stringent requirements around fair labor and safe working environments and things like that.
I'm sorry that some of you weren't able to see that. That's a shame, because it's quite an interesting little interview. So, in conclusion, currently, still very little of what is sold in consumption markets in the Western Hemisphere is made in the Western Hemisphere. Although China's status as the factory of the world has wavered slightly in the last few years, the vast majority of the things we buy and wear in the US and Europe is made on another continent. As a result, manufacturing has operated for a long time almost completely out of sight, a structure that simply cannot survive the ethical and environmental scrutiny now being applied by the open market and by government regulators such as the EU. Today, the need for visibility has assumed a new dimension. The global pandemic did not only dramatically accelerate the need to understand and control overseas manufacturing, but it also exposed the fault lines that lie beneath that model when it comes to delivering the level of on-demand production that consumers are being conditioned to expect in the very near future. As a consequence, the future of production is likely to take two forms. One will remain overseas, revitalized by AI, robotics, automation, digitalization, and industrial systems connectivity. And the other will spring up locally, microfactories, using technologies like digital printing, 3D weaving, 3D printing, and connecting cutting and sewing machines to enable sampling and short-run production to take place on the brand's doorsteps. In conclusion, to ensure a more sustainable future for the fashion industry, we need to transform the fashion supply chain into digitally connected systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie, for a very interesting and informative presentation. Dear audience, it's now Q&A time. You can either write your question in the Q&A section, then I will read it out for Leslie, or like a traditional approach, you can raise your hand, we will enable your audio and camera, then you can come on your camera and ask the question directly to Leslie. Whichever you prefer, do it. And when you think about a question or write a question, let me ask a question to Leslie. Leslie, wonderful presentation indeed. And you are living within the, like I say this, the area or world of digital fashion connected to teaching and providing courses for the professionals. Being within the world of digital fashion, what do you think, which part of the world is moving faster towards this revolution or towards this digitalization? Or which country specifically you think?
Which countries? Well, I think it's happening at different rates, different places. I would say that certain things like AI are pushing many different parts of the industry and reinventing and changing different approaches and different techniques. I mean, we just this morning had a conversation with a company, a software company, who would like to collaborate with us on building software which uses AI prompts to design garments. And so not actually design, so not kind of creating the visuals in AI as such of, you know, saying, how can I make the difference here? The prompts would actually be more about the structure of the garment rather than, you know, design a long dress on a mountaintop with snow or whatever, you know. So the interest in integrating AI through the design process is, of course, very appropriate at the moment. But it's also very important to realize that AI is purely a tool, and that designers need to use AI for as a tool and for inspiration and for new thoughts that they hadn't thought about before, rather than to create the designs. That wasn't really answering your question, though, was it? It was where things developing most. I would say probably actually the Far East is where the biggest, most rapid developments are happening. And what we see in that is, apart from the big companies in Silicon Valley, there's also lots of small entrepreneurs developing solutions for different parts of the textile industry.
Right, thank you. You have mentioned this, what I was actually thinking, that, you know, which is necessary, that the software companies, the technology developers, they work together with the people of fashion or the professionals from the fashion industry. So I think it's very timely that you have mentioned that software company approached you and you have started working together. But I think it needs to be increased. The software companies, the AI or the similar, digital tools developer, they need to work closely with the industry people, the textile and fashion people, to know their needs and to know how the textile and fashion products are being made and designed and made for one particular customer or being mass produced for a big group of customers. Yeah. While using this kind of tool, I think these things are not that well addressed. What do you think?
Yeah. Sorry, repeat the end of that question again. Things are not
being addressed. I mean, or when still, well, there are several digital tools being used. They're getting very popular, but I always think there are something that probably the software company, the software developer, they don't need to understand of the fashion and the textile people very well.
No, that's true. It's, as I said in my presentation, that we were quite shocked at the very beginning of our journey in researching into this area that most people knew nothing about the fashion industry. And that's really, really true. And we start our background, both Sean and I were fashion designers, and then we were in education, and both of us in quite senior positions in education. And then we started this company. And we started it with a core belief that the position of the designer will change in the future. And therefore, it's essential that higher education is part of that plan as well. So technology is moving very fast. Technology needs more input from the industry and from designers, and also the industry needs more input from higher education, and higher education needs to listen more to the industry as well. I think that in many ways, the traditional idea of what a creative or a designer has to change. It is changing. And I would say the most important thing is that the technology creates a designer who is less dependent on all the other people round about in the supply chain. The designer has to be more empowered by the data to make the decisions. And just being creative isn't enough any longer. You need to have other skills, the newer skills that digital provide. I think I'm just kind of really going off tack here, and you really need to pull me back to your question.
It's okay. Yeah. I was just trying to know about this and these limitations, what actually hindering the progress. And when it comes to adoption and implementation, do you think prices is still the problem, the price of the software tools?
No, the software, I think the software itself is pretty reasonable. And the price of the licenses for the software, like for Clo or something like that, is very reasonable indeed. We had big issues with the African continent, where we did a lot of work in offering scholarships to African students. And last year, all our scholarships were going to African students. They have issues with not so much the licensing, because we got free licensing from Clo for this project, but for hardware and also for internet. So the internet coverage on the continent of Africa is very poor in most countries, and good in some countries like Uganda or Nigeria or South Africa, but in many other countries it's very, very poor. And this does not help with a huge population, a huge young population that need to and want to learn more about technology. That really holds them back, how that technology is being used there, and the price of hardware. But for software, there are so many competing companies now. I think if you were to look at something like Lectra Systems, which is really aimed for the industry, then you're paying a lot more money than if you do a CLO license, which is what, $50 for a month or something like that. I don't know. It's really reasonable.
Yeah, this monthly subscription system has actually worked very well. The price has gone down, and it's very reasonable for the individual designers and professionals as well. Do we have any question from the audience or participants in the Q&A section? I can't see. I think Brother Majid has written impressive presentation. Thank you, Leslie. And there is a question as well. Do you think the AI-enabled design tools might have significant impact to control the whole or part of the complex fashion supply chain? AI-enabled design tools.
Is this on the chat? Because I'd like to.
It's in the Q&A. On the Q&A.
Oh yeah, Q&A. Let me have a look. Let me read that. Do you think that AI-enabled design tools might have significant diverse impact to control the whole part? I think in many ways they should have. But one of the issues with AI, it's a bit like the Wild West at the moment, because it's developing so quickly, and many people are jumping on the bandwagon, and it's really difficult to say where it's going to go. I think it should have a significant impact on certainly making the complex and splintered supply chain more transparent, certainly overseeing and managing the process through the supply chain. It could certainly do very, very well. And I think at the end of the day, when these technologies are technologies as powerful as AI, which we don't really yet understand how powerful it's going to be, these technologies used to the best of their ability should create positive impact in things like the supply chain, which is, of course, the supply chain is far too large and far too splintered, and is the cause of many of the issues that we have in the fashion industry. AI having the power to oversee the supply chain would certainly be a good thing, as long as it was used properly. But who knows what that is? Yeah. So I think it's a difficult one to actually be precise about. But in theory, that's what it should be doing.
Great, thank you. I don't know why Teams need two options, both chat and Q&A. This looks similar to me, and it puzzled the audience and the viewers, I would say. Now we have a question in the chat box now from Alice from the University of Southampton. She wrote, "Thank you very much for your presentation, Leslie, and for sharing the innovative cases." She has two queries. Firstly, how do you see design to creation, D2C, digital fashion business like Kala developing, given the lack of knowledge about materiality and design that many consumers have, as a result of flattening of fashion and increasing availability of low quality fast fashion product. This is the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one is you have emphasized sustainability and digital design for physical production. Could you share your thoughts about the benefits of purely digital design? For example, the image from Danny Loftus that you currently have on the screen.
Okay, all right. Let's
This
tackle.
this is in the chat box, not in
Yes,
the
okay,
Q&A.
I'm reading it as well. So let's tackle the second one first, because that's the most straightforward one. I think Danny's amazing. We've interviewed her many times. She is really, really eloquent, and I love what she's doing. To me, this isn't fashion. To me, this is image making or styling in a way, or dressing up, or using the technology, showing what it can do. It could inspire fashion, but it's not fashion. And I think that is a difference, or a differential, that Sean and I have worked through since we started the Digital Fashion Group, because there are many people in the digital fashion field who call themselves digital fashion designers or fashion designers who haven't studied fashion design. And we really believe that to be a successful digital designer, to use digital tools successfully for fashion, you need to know how a garment is made. You need to know how a garment fits a body, the 3 dimensions of it. So we really, although we're pushing for more digitalization, particularly in education, we really believe that the traditional model of craft and research and developing your signature and creating your creative universe and all that kind of thing that fashion education does so well is really, really, really important. So I love what Danny does, but for me, it's, yes, as you say, it's digital design. I wouldn't say it was fashion design. And digital design for physical production. Yeah, okay, so the first question, Alice, was, I'm just looking at it again, D2C, digital developing, given a lack of knowledge about materiality and design that many consumers haven't. Okay, so Cala is a service which they work with, again, people who are not designers, so influencers or people who want to create a range. It could be a retailer or something who wants to create a range, and Cala actually do the whole thing for them. And so they provide the designers, they provide the production, they provide everything to the market. They produce the whole thing. And the reason that Cala was important for this conversation was that they do everything digitally, from the very beginning to the very end. Everything's done digitally, either with the designing or the patterns or the cutting, and they use factories that use robotics. They use the whole thing is very digital. I don't know to what extent they have people who have a knowledge of materiality and design in their, for example, in their design part of this, but it's really aimed at a very particular market, which is more about influencers than anything else. So I hope that answered your question. personalization.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Alice, for your question. We have got a few minutes left, 3 minutes if there is any question. Yulu, I noticed you tried to write something in the chat box quite a few times, but you didn't. If you think it's better to speak, just let me know. I'll be happy to give you both audio and video access.
Yeah, they're typing.
No questions, I think. Okay, but thank you very much, Leslie. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us from Brussels. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. There's been a very timely presentation, very interesting indeed. Thank you all, and I hope you have enjoyed, and we look forward to get together again in some good occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to see you again, Abu. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.